What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
Does your book, film, resource, product, or business change people's lives for the better? Hi, I'm Jackie Lappin, founder of Conscious Media Relations, a unique boutique PR firm that helps you connect with your mind, body, spirit, and conscious lifestyle audience in a big way. We reach 3,500 specialty media and all the key mainstream outlets in the United States. I invite you to explore our radio media tour that connects to 2,600 personal growth radio shows. There is just nothing else like it. Come check out our website and read our rave reviews.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Dr. Georgina Cannon, who was an award-winning board-certified clinical hypnotist and was the founder of the Ontario Hypnosis Centre. She is recognised as the public face of hypnosis in Canada and a respected member of the mainstream health community. Dr. Cannon has been a frequent guest in the media, and her work and views have gained her prominence as a frequent source for news and features articles on hypnosis and alternative therapies. Now, before starting her hypnosis career in 1997, Georgina Cannon was a managing director and senior vice president, responsible for 4 offices across Canada. Dr. Cannon is a regular public speaker and has participated in talks at Toronto's hospitals, where she's lectured to physicians, nurses and social workers in the healing powers of hypnosis and regression work. Dr. Cannon has written and produced 25 self-hypnosis compact discs, 4 online training DVDs, and her 3rd book, Return Again. Dr. Georgina Cannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so wonderful talking to you from Toronto.
I know, it's great, isn't it, to be able to do these sort of, long distance, video calls nowadays. You go back a few years, this wasn't even a reality, was it really, as much as it is now?
Magic.
Yeah,
It's
it really
magic.
is. Well, I think it's... Go on.
I still don't understand how you put a piece of paper in a machine and it comes out in Hong Kong. I mean, I'm still stuck there. So this is really magic.
My background was electronics, so I understand it a little bit. It takes away the little bit of the fun, but I think it's magic what you've been doing these past 20 years. Now, before we get into these past 20 years and much more, I was reading in the intro that you was very much in the corporate world. And
Yes.
Did you have much interest in spiritual matters, or had read any sort of texts that were classed as sort of New Age or metaphysical?
Yes. Well, I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in England. And as you know, in England, we take it all pretty much for granted. We really do believe in ghosts and fairies at the bottom of the garden and goblins. And it never occurred to me that that wasn't possible. And I'd always been able to see auras, although I didn't know what it was. I just assumed that everybody else did. So, but when I came to Canada, it was like a weird thing that people couldn't understand what I was talking about. So I shut it down for a while and was a journalist when I first came here as well, and then went into PR and then went into the corporate world and always missed it, always felt there was something not complete in my life because without the spirituality of who we are, we're just like an empty vessel, you know.
So there wasn't.
I did find other people who believed in the same thing I did, but it was a very small group, and we were considered weird.
Well, not anymore. I mean, time has changed so many things.
No.
No. But but there wasn't any particular types of material that you had studied, or had you even come across the idea of past lives?
Well, with Edgar Cayce, I had read Edgar Cayce when I was much younger, and it just fit, right? It wasn't a big deal. It was just something I fit, and you read it and you said, yeah, that makes sense. But when I started looking around for something else to do, I knew it had to be something that made a difference with the lives of people. And so I looked at Reiki, and I realized that wasn't it. And I looked at regular therapy. I took Gestalt classes and different types of therapy, and realized I wanted something a little deeper and a little more connected, if I can say that. And I ended up discovering a hypnosis class that was okay, but at least it gave me the accreditation to teach and to do hypnosis. And then I discovered Michael Newton, and I studied under him with the Interlife and Henry Bolduc, and I learned from him about how to formal way of doing past lives. So that was 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah, Michael.
Heaven ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Newton. I mean, yeah, absolutely. The Newton Institute, which still goes strong now. You mentioned the Edgar Cayce Center in the Virginia Beach. That's still going strong now as well, and helping lots of people. So yeah, these foundations that inspired you are still there, serving other people as well for exploration into the realms of consciousness. On what that information could change in the present moment, which is what it's all about, I think. Okay, now, but there was I think you suffered from an ongoing migraine or headaches, and it was through going through a past life, having your own past life regression, that you were able to then go to the source or the cause of the issue.
Yeah, and got rid of it. When I was training in Virginia Beach, the Blue Hills of Virginia, with Henry Bolduc, we were partnered up to practice with each other. And my partner said, is there anywhere particular you'd like to go? And I said, well, I'd love to find out if there's a way we can find the source of my migraines. So he said, sure. So we did the protocol. And halfway through, I had this awful stench, this smell of like rotting garbage. And I realized it was me. And I was an old hag, literally, with filthy, stringy hair and no teeth. And I lived in a cave outside of a small village somewhere in Europe somewhere. And my relationship with the village was that I was the woman that would help the women give birth or have abortions or help them with their female issues. And I was unclean. I was seen by them as unclean. And the only way I survived was when they remembered they would give me food in exchange for my services. Plus, I collected herbs and stuff like this. One day I went down into the village and helped a woman give birth. I was called down, and she was having a terrible time. And the baby was born dead. A young boy was born dead, and she died in childbirth. So I had to do all the clearing up and the burying and all of that. And finally, exhausted, went back to my cave. And in the middle of the night, I got woken up by a very violent kick. Her husband had come up, drunk and furious, and he started beating me, and he picked up a rock and smashed it on the side of my head and killed me. And right where I used to get my migraines. And the person that was leading me through it did all the protocol that we do for healing and letting go. And when I came out of hypnosis, I mean, I was amazed. And I kept waiting for another migraine. Never had one since.
Wow.
And I have helped other people with physical ailments. Not always, but often. Yeah.
That's incredible, absolutely incredible. And how many clients would you, I mean, is it difficult to put a number on that? How many clients that you've had for, past life regression sessions?
Thousands. Also, I don't know if you know, but I did a series for the CBC on past life investigation. And they found, because they wanted to keep it very clean, so they brought in 30 people that I'd never met. And they wanted to do 3 one-hour segments. And out of the 30, I think 25 of them went into a past life. And out of the 25, they had 10 that they could verify with facts and information. And out of those 10, they chose 3 that made good TV. So that was fun.
That's good.
And that's still available online. I think the History Channel shows it sometimes.
Wow, okay. And how much, was there any sort of bits that they could go back in history with, or was it a bit too far back, or was it just, was it not connectable in some sense to history?
Well, the only ones they showed were the ones that are connectable. And what they did was they take the person back to their source. So in one case, there was a woman who, in that past life, was a trader, on the Silk Road, going from India to China and back again, selling herbs and spices. And she named the village. She also spoke another language, by the way, when she was in that lesson. She spoke Hindi. And she doesn't speak Hindi in this life. And they found the little village that she mentioned. They also took her to the monastery that she mentioned. And when the producer and she and the camera guy walked into the monastery, one of the senior monks walked up to her and said, "Welcome home, my child. It's time you came home." And they all burst into tears because they all connected. So, I mean, that was very profound. Incredible. Unfortunately, I wasn't there.
Incredible.
But yes.
Okay.
So all three they verified for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What was the switch for you in that sense to follow this path? Was this your calling? Was this what you fell in love with in a sense?
Yes. Yeah. I think my thumbprint as a soul is to be a teacher, and my goal, my mantra, is to help people find their own magnificence. And through journeys like this, they discover who they are. I don't tell them. I just facilitate and shine the light so they can find their way. They get the wisdom and the understanding and how it can improve their current life. They recognize the patterns. They recognize why they're here, what their purpose is. It's quite amazing. They weep sometimes with pure joy, and it's awe-inspiring. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I'm to be in that energy of where of the place called home or heaven or whatever you want to personify this that we go to.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, What would you say makes you different compared to other hypnotists, in a sense?
A couple of things. For hypnosis, straight hypnosis, I always go to the source of the issue. I don't give affirmations. I explain to the client that the subconscious mind, is like a river running along very smoothly. And then underneath there's some fish swimming around. And one of the fish knocks a stick, and up comes the stick. And around the stick, suddenly the water has to flow, so interrupting the flow. And then comes a leaf and attaches to the stick, and another one, until you've got a dam. My job is to help you through your subconscious mind find that stick. So we remove the stick, and then the water can flow again. So if you come in with major anger issues, or you come in with high anxiety, or you come in and feeling guilty for as long as you can remember, then let's find the source of that. That's Fiona, by the way, complaining. She wants more food. Let's find the source of it. And if you find the source of it, then you can make a decision to let it go. So you can let it go. And then they feel better.
Yes.
And the whole thing's gone.
Yes.
So that's the hypnosis. What makes me different with past life and interlife regression is that interlife sessions, is that I talk about integrating the wisdom and the learning you've got into this life as well. So I don't just leave them, because there's nothing worse, I believe, than a sort of born again regression person who goes around saying, well, you really don't know what's going on. I mean, only I understand. And that's how you alienate everybody. So we do some work after the session to help integrate it into your current life and your daily life. So it really works for you.
Yes. So what you're saying is, you are giving the person back their power.
Yes.
They hold all the cards to heal themselves. You're just there as a guide, in a sense, for the healing process to take place. But they are their own answers by connecting to their higher self.
No question. I truly believe with my heart and soul that everybody has the answers. It's just that they choose not to. It's hidden between dust and noise sometimes, and they choose not to. But they really do have it. And it's just my job to help facilitate them in such a way that they find it with my help.
I'm starting to learn that this higher self, as one word for this aspect of I am, God,
Yes.
the undescribable pure essence of life itself, which is the higher self. It's the everything.
The isness.
Yeah. It holds so much power, and this power, I think, if we were to embrace the idea that our higher self is that powerful, has a lot of it's a lot of responsibility for people. Most people, as I've said in this program before, want to be told what to think, told what to do, and then to keep coming back as well for it. But I like what you're about. You're really about self-empowerment, which is what
totally.
Yeah. And
Totally.
the higher self doesn't come in. It doesn't really force you to think or do anything. It just shows you a way. I don't think that in a sense the higher self isn't like a religion. It's not going to tell you what to do, but it's going to show you all pointers.
Yeah, because we are so much more than we seem. There is so much more to us. This way and deeper and wider and up and down. And we are so many parts, so many dimensions. We're all capable of everything. And when clients come in that are guilty of something that they've done, I say to them quite often, remember, we are all many things. We're like a ball of everything. We're all smart. We're all stupid. We're all kind. We're all unkind. It's just a piece you choose to use every day that makes us who you are. So every minute of every day, you get to choose that piece of you that makes you you for that moment. Because tomorrow you can be a different person. Tomorrow you can be unkind. Tomorrow you could be dumb and stupid and make mistakes. But for today, you can choose this. That's why I say that karma is just the hand of cards that we're dealt with. They're not our absolute, because what we do with those cards is totally up to us.
Yes, and we'll come to karma in just a bit. Actually,
Okay.
yeah, that's an important part of the karma is what I want to speak to you about. But
Yeah.
the idea that we can choose how we react. How much have I come from love today? I think the things that you've just mentioned there prior to karma really come from the aspect of how consciously evolved am I to think that way. Because I think it takes
Yes.
a bit of a conscious shift to almost get to a little bit of a higher level, equal to your higher self, to get to that level.
Well, I do have some tactics and some techniques that I teach both my students and my clients. And one of them is about having buttons that people push. And we all have 3 buttons, I believe. We have a button that says I'm stupid. We have a button that says I'm not good enough. And we have the diminishment button, when people treat you like you don't matter. And if something happens to you, or someone says something to you, and you get a boom, a reaction, and out comes the reaction, and you regret it later, isn't it so much kinder, both to you and to the rest of the world, to say, okay, I just felt that. What button did it push? Where does that button come from? What's it to do with? Because it's probably got nothing to do with this. It's probably to do with something before. And that gives you the breathing space to do some considered thinking. So therefore, instead of reacting, you can reply or not. And it makes a huge difference, that few seconds of space.
And that may not be another person that's pressing those buttons. It could be life financially.
So,
It could be financial problems.
absolutely.
How
It could be financial problems. It could be illness. It could be irritation at waiting in line somewhere. It could be, I don't know if you've been to it. This always makes me laugh. You go to an airport and you're in line with people who travel a lot, or you're in line with people who are tired because they've traveled from somewhere, or they're on business. And suddenly somebody announces that because of weather, the flight has been canceled. Well, you see some grown men and women have temper tantrums of like 3 years old. They stomp and they scream, and what are you going to do about this? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at them thinking, you're 3 years old. Grow up, take a breath, be nice, be kind, and either get on your phone if you know what to do about it, or take a breath and wait, because it will sort itself out. But they react from a gut instead of being a considered thinker. We have choice.
Absolutely, and it goes back to coming from this space of responsible for your actions and how you treat people, and really in that situation how you treat yourself. Going through all that stress isn't nice to your body, isn't nice to yourself even.
No,
So this is coming back to self-love, even in that small example.
Yes.
Yeah. I think for me, there's dream work, there's intuitive work, and with your hypnosis work, it really is another way to get to source, to get to your higher self. And experience what that reconnection is like, because I bet you most people, when they go into the space, the energy of however we're going to personify it, I'll call it home just for now. That's my word just right now. But going back home, being in that energy is very loving, isn't it, and very special.
It's awe-inspiring. People weep because it's so unconditional love. It's such unconditional love that maybe in their whole life they've never experienced it before that they know of. And they don't want to come out quite often. And then when they do come out, they say, can I do this again tomorrow? Because they're going home and they're being loved and welcomed unconditionally. And there aren't many of us that say we're unconditionally loved on this planet in this lifetime. So to go back to source, to go back to truly who you are, which is love. It sounds woo-woo, but I'm very pragmatic about these things.
I don't think it's woo-woo.
I don't think it's woo-woo. I think it just is. I think just look at animals. They behave that way. Dogs behave that way. They accept you unconditionally. They accept themselves unconditionally. They don't look at each other and say, my tail is longer than yours, right? They don't do that stuff.
Or look at their bodies and not just be in acceptance of who they are.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or judge. Yeah.
That's right.
But then I suppose does that come from being a bit more highly having a different type of consciousness compared to animals, that these effects take, these things happen because there's a different level of consciousness in a sense that's present.
Well, it's the competition thing, isn't
yes,
it?
Yes.
It's the feeling you have to be in competition with somebody else.
Yeah.
I remember when I started teaching hypnosis, because I started, as I say, 20 years ago, and it had just become legal for non-psychiatrists to do hypnosis. And the question I got all the time, including from my medical doctor, why are you teaching other people to do what you do? Aren't you concerned about competition? My answer is no, absolutely not. This is bountiful. Plenty for everybody. People find their way to the right teacher. Always. Always.
And
never worried about that.
And it was someone that said something to me recently. Someone said something to me. They're a teacher and they were also a channeler. And they said the most loving thing they ever did was to teach.
Yes, no question.
It's
such a gift that you're passing on the torch. You're passing the light.
How many people? Absolutely. How many people, when they're in regression with yourself, or as you're there, are actually connecting with their higher selves?
It depends whether they're regressing back in this life or into the womb. If they're going into past life, sometimes they meet their guides, which is really interesting because they've gone beyond the present dimension. I had a person yesterday who went in to do their life between lives and became an alien, which was interesting for them, to put it blindly. But they connect with their higher selves, but more in touch with that when they do the interlife.
Yep.
Otherwise, you go from body to body.
And, would you be... I mean, look, we don't have barely any... I mean, I think doing this 20 years, you've probably got more questions than answers, right? And that's... I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm just saying, I bet you have, right? So when we say we are meeting our guide... Now, there's a lot of people out there that say, well, yes, that's how it is, but what if that was an aspect of yourself as well?
Well, my answer to that, and I get asked this a lot by the media, by the way, who try to be cynical. And they say, so how do you know that past lives are real? And my answer to them is, I don't care. Because even if it's a metaphor that your mind is giving you, you're getting the wisdom, you're getting the answer, and you're getting the insight of how big and magnificent you are, that you wouldn't get it without this journey. So even if it's that part of your mind that we don't normally tap into, what difference does it make what we call it?
No, and I'll be honest with you, trick question, but I actually think that it, personally, my personal opinion, my truth, and we've all got a different truth, and that's the great thing about all this.
Yes,
that it is your higher self coming through sometimes. And
right.
This higher self is much more complicated than what we think, and much more expansive, and much more powerful.
Yes.
Yes. You've probably been asked this before. Why are we leaving the higher self on that side? I suppose that's a bit of a duh question, because it's like, well, if you can have an experience, then you're going to go in as a blank canvas, aren't you?
Well, why do we leave it? Well, everybody leaves a different amount of them up there. Some people bring a lot of themselves down here and lower vibration into the body. Some people bring a lot less. So the people that we think are sort of quirky or not quite grounded or flaky, sometimes that's exactly the reason why. Is because they've only brought maybe 30% of themselves down on this planet at this time. They've left the bulk of themselves up there in the interlife, into the higher self, where the soul is. But they came down to explore and to learn something, evolve, and they didn't need all of themselves. That's my take on it.
And absolutely, thank you for sharing that as well. Thank you. And the interlife, just for the audience, Interlives is your truth for life between life, or
yes.
life between life. Yeah.
Life between lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a great
Yeah.
word. I've never come across it before, but it's Interlives. I love it.
Well, I'll tell you why. Can I tell you why I use
Please,
it
yes.
instead of the life between lives? Because I found that people go to different places. It's not just the life between lives. Sometimes they go to different planets. I had one gentleman who ended up, and he said, "This is strange. I seem to be in water." And I said, "Are you in the physical body? Or what is this? What do you look like or feel like?" Excuse me, because I thought he might become a dolphin. And he said, no, we're physical. We're a group. We're in physical body. And I said, well, how are you living? Anyway, to cut a long story short, it seems that they emerged from the liquid to create new ways of using energy and new ways of understanding for earthlings. And then when that particular piece of work was done, they went back into the liquid. And I couldn't get from him whether it was a different planet or a different dimension. I
That's
certainly
incredible.
didn't know anything about that, but he had it. And I don't know what you'd call it, but
No,
it's,
I've heard this stuff through Dolores Cannon's work.
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's and a lot of the audience has as well. That's watching this right now. It's incredible. It really is amazing. And I bet it's always a like, oh my God, this is so incredible. The truth that this would mean.
Yes.
And I suppose you are a lot about bringing back information that can help you in the present moment, rather than getting stuck in like, oh my God, there's 7 dimensions or there's 8 dimensions, and this is the reason that you have this life review, but we don't know. Yeah, this is just other people's truths, which resonates a lot with you because that's what other people are saying with you. But it's about bring it back to present moment.
Yeah, because this life is the important life. You're here for a reason. You're here to help the soul evolve. And it's very important that we understand that whatever wisdom and knowledge you get from the other places, the other times, the other dimensions, are all to do with making this life richer, fuller, and more profound. And I should tell you, I'm not name dropping here, but I've had this discussion with Shirley MacLaine, because she gets irritated with me from time to time because I don't investigate more. Because as you probably know, you probably interviewed her, but she has a huge intellect on wanting to know everything. So when I tell her I didn't follow that through because my goal was with my client to help them heal an issue, she says, but don't you want to know? And she gets sort of irritated. And the answer is no, I work for my client. I'm not writing a story. If I was doing it from a journalistic point of view, it'd be different. I'm working for my client right now.
Absolutely, because you're being of service, and I totally understand that. And no, I've not interviewed her. It's on one of my to-do lists to get in contact. But yeah. I mean, even though you talk about in your work before, I think you did about 7 potential frequency levels to go to, if I'm using the right words here. Would you be surprised if there's infinitive levels?
I think we don't know what we don't know. We don't even know the questions to ask. I mean, the scientists have now caught up with what we already knew, which is that there are now energy fields that are out there, and they're not just black holes, they're energy vibrations. And there is so much that we can't even comprehend. I wouldn't begin to say anything is finite. I couldn't, and I wouldn't.
No, and I think one of the most empowering things I've got from when I do my channeling is that everyone has their own unique truth, and that's and that's the great thing about it. And even on the other side, just to use that word, they're still making up their truth. It's not defined. It's not defined.
Well, we evolve. I mean, like nature, like the stars, like the planets. It's never still. It's always evolving.
Yes. Well, one of the most evolving things. I can hear the cat in the background there.
Yeah, Fiona. Yeah.
Fiona's making an entrance.
If I shut her out, she just gets louder.
No, you can't shut her out. No. I'm a cat fan. It's okay. One of the biggest learning curves I've had just recently was was to know that I've been channeling my higher self all this time. It called itself a name, and in the end, it told me that in the end, but by listening to other people and being prepared to come to that point to meet that truth, that was actually the truth right now, that it was me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really empowering. That was because it was like, wow, we can be lovable enough to love ourselves that much to say that we have that type of power.
And just accept it.
Yeah.
It's like the color of our eyes. It's not a big deal.
No.
It just is.
No, but there's always been that paradigm that it's this all paradigm. There's a new paradigm coming in. I can feel it. It is happening.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
And
the vibration's changing on the planet for sure.
Even now, and it's much more expansive and much deeper and much more meaningful, than it has been. Absolutely. And I suppose you see that in the quality of your clients coming through and what the information they're bringing through.
Yes, it's unbelievable. I'm now getting bank managers and CEOs of corporations coming in and saying things like, I know you're going to find it strange, but I'm seeing trees. And I say, yes. I said, no, I mean, I'm seeing trees. Like I see the roots and I see the trunk and the leaves. I see it all, how it connects. And I say, yes. Do you think I'm weird? No. Fiona, be a good girl. Come on. There you go.
No.
Yeah. So the world is changing. No question.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Unfortunately, there are parts of the world that still need us and still need that high energy.
Yeah. And I don't think you can change. I mean, isn't it surprising? Isn't it surprising, right? That souls come down here with absolute free will to be allowed to be absolute twats and harmful to one another and just complete shits, and yet on the level they come from, which we all come from, we're allowed to go do that. Let's be a twat, let's be a shit, and let's be hurtful to each other. It's as though that something very special can come off this by bringing this information back to source. It's difficult to get your head around, and it upsets some people even thinking this way. Makes them angry.
Well, my answer to that would be they come down not for themselves, but for others. They come down so that you can learn what to do in the face of that. Even in the Holocaust, even in the Sudan, in the worst of the worst, there were people who rose above it. There were people who gave. There were people who cared for others. There were people who became unsung heroes, even within the death camps, that took care of the weaker. There are always people that step up, and that's the soul evolvement. So some people come down, and I don't care whether it's an irascible neighbor or a pain in the butt boss. It's equally, they come down to help you learn something.
Yes, and oh gosh, so much can come from that answer, and I don't want to get too much into this, but they can, and then some people would say, but well, if we're all knowing and we're all loving and we everything's nice and peaceful on that side, why would you come to experience this though? Why would you even put yourself through that and blank yourself out, even though based on the answer that you just gave?
Because we're not all knowing and all loving. Until we reach the one light, until we are reconnected, because we're all splinters of God, is my belief. We're all splinters. Until we reconnect with the isness, with the one, we're evolving, and we've got little pieces to tune up and to change and to refine and to teach each other.
Well, that's a big aha moment, because that's actually quite true, because, we don't have to be like we are to one another. We don't, do we?
No.
And yet we are quite readily and acceptably like that. So, we ain't that. Yeah, we don't. If we could come from a better space, wouldn't that just be a great, thing to be that with each other? Some people say, well, it's the human psyche to come with like that, but I know I'm a soul having a human experience, so I don't go down that road too much. Yet, I think it's deeper, isn't it? While we are like this sometimes. Do you think it's pre-programmed before we come down here with free will?
I think part of it is programmed, but because we choose, which body to come in, which lifestyle, which family. But what we do with that is free will. When we meet a homeless person on the street, we can walk past them, or we can throw money in their cup, or we can stop and look them in the eyes and say, take care of yourself. We have a choice every minute of every day how we manifest the body we're in, how we manifest the soul that we're carrying, how we manifest our behavior. My belief.
Right, that's quite profound. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. This is what you said earlier on. Actually, thank you for just bringing that back up again. I appreciate that for everyone that's listening. And you mentioned karma before as well. What's your understanding of karma?
Karma, I believe. First of all, we can create our own heaven and hell on this earth. We can make our lives either heaven. We can decide to be happy. Even if we're not well, we can decide to make the best of it and carry that through somehow. Or we can make it hell. We can take the karma we're given and play like a hand of cards and play those cards in any way we choose. And I have a perfect example of how that works. For a period, I worked as a volunteer for a hospital with children who were disabled either by accident or birth. And there were 3 teenagers in wheelchairs. And by accidents, one had a motorbike accident, I think one was 17, one was 19, one was 14. And they were sort of hanging around together. And when I spoke to them, one of them said, I said, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do when you grow up? And he said, I'm going to run my own company. So I said, great, what are you going to do? He said, I don't know, but I'm going to run my own company. It might be technology, but I think it's going to be service of some sort. Great. I said to the other kid, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm in the wheelchair races. I'm going to go to the Paralympics. And the third kid, who was 14 at the time, said, I don't know. My parents tell me I'll be on disability, and I guess I'll just have to find something to do. Now, they all were dealt the same hand, but they all chose. And that's at that age. So I think if we can, as adults, understand that we have choice, total choice. It's certainly harder for some than others. I'm not making light of it in any way, shape, or form. For instance, people who are addicts have a really hard time of it, but they get to choose as well. People who are severely disabled or wounded from war have a hard time of it. But again, you see some people rise up like heroes and other people sink into a morass of helplessness. It's choice. It's all about choice. Every morning we choose.
You know, everyone's got a different understanding of karma. I mean, again, there's so many books on karma that it's just people's truths, isn't it?
I think you have to read what you can about anything. And that includes all the newspapers. Read everything. And then make up your own decision what resonates with you, what makes sense. And every religion has a different version of karma too, whether it be Buddhist or Hindi or whatever. It's all different. So whatever feels right for you. But ultimately, you're living on this planet at this time, and you get to choose how it works.
Yeah, I agree. No matter what conflicts you may be going through, you gotta try to realize that you're in charge of this movie. Even though sometimes when you look at your bank balance, it does not feel like it. You're like, well, hang on, am I in charge of this? But you are. There's always a bigger picture. You
are in charge. You are in charge. Yeah, you can't blame your mother. You can't blame your boss, and you certainly can't blame karma. So
yes, and I think again, for me, the biggest learning curve of all this has been to really try to start to listen to your intuitive side, your intuitive feeling, which I now my truth for it, that understanding of what that intuitive feeling is your soul speaking to you, your higher self speaking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a reason why when people say to me, should I go to this psychic or that psychic? And I say to them, well, know a little bit about the person you're going to, because everybody has filters. So if you went to 3 psychics and one lived in India and one lived in North America and one lived in Europe, and they all had the same story, they all got the same information, but how they interpret it for you comes through their filter. So it's important that we understand our own filters when we're getting that intuition as well. So if we're living in fear and we keep getting, an intuition not to move or not to do anything, we need to understand what that filter is too.
Absolutely, and I say to in a lot of these shows not to become a psychic junkie either. But I get, and I've said this before recently in the show without boring anyone. I do get a psychic reading. At least maybe maximum about twice a year. One in the beginning, one at the end. But that's about it. Just to check in sometimes. That's it. And sometimes out of curiosity.
Right.
But not addictively seeking advice as some do, where all the advice lies within. That's not taking responsibility at all.
Right. Because ultimately, it's their life that they're filtering through to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what was this book that you've done as well? Let me just get the title here, because obviously I've got many pages here. Returning again, how to find meaning in your past lives and your interlives. It's an interesting read. You've got some interesting chapters in here as well. Did most people, when they go into a past life, when they go into an interlife, are they all saying the same thing in a sense? Is the information nearly always the same?
Well, sometimes it is. They often go along the same channel, if you like. They go through the threshold. They meet some guides. They go to their soul circle. They go to a place of rest or recuperation. They may go to the laboratory where they learn to manage their energy. They may go to the library to find out information. They go to the council of wise elders. And then they go to the place of life selection where they choose their body and the country that they're going to live in and their soul purpose. Having said that, some people only go to two stations or 3 stations, and some people don't go to any. Like my client yesterday, who went straight to being an alien, who was bored being on the spaceship for the longest time. And the other person that went in became liquid. So it depends totally where the soul needs to take you. But by and large, I would say 60% follow some form of pattern and go to the council for the wisdom, which is profound always, and get their soul name. They can get their soul color and their soul purpose.
Well, that is pretty deep. That's pretty deep stuff. I bet it's amazing having that experience. And if you're how do you deal? Well, not how you deal with religious people, but how are religious people receptive to your work, or are they not?
It depends. I've had some people, when I was teaching in Ireland, for instance, they'd come and they say, as long as my priest doesn't find out, we'll be fine. And they whisper, Some people come, I usually get children of religious people. I do get some Orthodox Jews who are Kabbalists, who belong right? It depends. When I first started 20 years ago, and I took a booth at the Whole Life Expo, people would walk past my booth making the sign of a cross like this and averting their eyes. Things have changed quite a bit since then. So it's more accepted. I talk about resurrection and how, Jesus died and came back up again. What would you call that? If not reincarnation?
Yep.
Don't know, but I'm not going to get into an argument with anybody's belief system.
No, absolutely not. And one of the things I found fascinating about yourself as well is that, I hope I've got this right, you teach NLP as well.
Yes, neuro-linguistic programming. I teach that. I teach hypnosis, basic and advanced, and I teach it at the University, by the way, of Toronto, the School of Social Work. They're learning how powerful it is. And I teach NLP and past life, interlife, and spirit and entity release. So if you have an energy attachment, I can help you teach you how to let go of that.
Sometimes who are having to them a behavior problem that they don't know where a particular addictions come from, whatever
Yes.
it may be. And sometimes you'll find
Yes.
that's actually an
Yeah.
attachment.
Yeah. Or they'll come in and they'll say, I don't know why, but it's suddenly I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm carrying around a bag, a sack of coal. Last 3 weeks, and I say to them, where have you been? Well, it might have been, because my uncle died and I spent a lot of time in the hospital. So it might have been exhaustion from that. I say, well, let's do a scan. And I get them to scan themselves. And they feel. Yeah, so we release it. 99% of the time, they're benign. They're just souls that couldn't find their way home. They got lost. Occasionally, there's a dark energy, but that's not a problem.
No, absolutely. It's not nothing to be feared of, is it? Absolutely at all. But it wasn't. Yeah, and it wasn't that dark that it couldn't come to you to be released, neither. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
right. That's right.
And
That's
it's surprising, that sometimes when people come into your life, they bring an energy with them, and there may be an attachment with them that they they're not aware of, but you can sometimes feel things when people leave. They seem to leave something leaves with them sometimes as well.
Yeah, I see, because I see when people have attachments. I've also had people who are trying to sell their house and can't sell it ask me if I'd go and check and clear their house and see if there's any attachments there. And sometimes there are. If the person built the house like 50, 60, 70 years ago, and they died in it, and they don't want to leave it. So they don't want these people selling the house. So they hang around, and we have to encourage them to go into the light. So I do that too.
Yeah, I mean, this whole going into the light and the death process. You talk about that in your book as well. It's we're kind of. Do you feel that we're pulled from our bodies so that it's not painful, or?
It depends. Sometimes if you're in an accident, and it's like boom, like that, the soul just explodes out and might not even know that you're dead, might not even know. That's where they get lost sometimes. The soul hangs around for as long as it's needed, and people who work in palliative care see it leave or feel it leave. There's no question. And I get a lot of palliative care nurses coming in to be cleared because sometimes the soul clings to them.
Incredible. My gosh, right?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Is that right? Their soul can cling to the nurse. Wow. My gosh.
Yeah. If they don't want to live. So, for instance, supposing they're ill, they've got cancer, and they've got 3 young kids, and they know they're leaving, but they don't want to leave because they've got these children. So they want to hang around, and they don't know quite what to do. So they attach to other people. They attach to a living soul. They attach to the light.
What's one bit of advice you can give to people if they think they've got an attachment? Is it just to put white light around them and not to ask for anything, if it is around them, just to please go? Or
well, one of the things I would suggest to them to do is, if they feel there is an attachment, is to be still in a room and just say, are you aware that you're draining me? Are you aware? Because you feel like, and always say this, you feel like a very kind person. Are you aware that you're hurting me? I can help you go home. Are you ready to go home? And you might want to call in an Archangel Michael or Gabriel and to help them home. And usually if you tell them that they're going home into the light where they're going to be loved and people are waiting for them, they happily leave. It's just that they got lost. They don't know quite how to find their way out.
Do you Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's usually
do
very
you meditate
easy.
quite often?
I meditate maybe 3 or 4 times a week. I don't meditate every day.
And do you find that meditation for those who are not wanting to come see you yet, but are curious about a way in to see a past life or a glimpse of it, do you think meditation is the quickest way in?
I think it's a good way in. The only caveat I would have is that you ask before you do that, if you're going on a journey to a past life, ask that you go to a safe journey, one that is loving and kind. Because what you don't want to do is be by yourself and end up maybe on a battlefield or being hanged or being burned at the stake, because you don't have a facilitator there with you to help you through it. So that could be a little frightening. And you don't want to bring yourself out in the middle of it. If you do, you'll carry that pain into your current life,
Right.
which is not a good idea.
Okay, that's good advice. And you would say from the clients that you've had that any past life that comes through with yourself and with the clients is only coming through because it's what's affecting this life now. Yeah.
Yes. The soul knows where you need to go, and it's not linear. So they can take you back to 10th century, and then they can go back to the cave age, and then they can come to your most recent past life, because each time you gain a wisdom and an understanding, and that's the levels that the soul needs you to learn them in. And sometimes we say, if it's appropriate, please take us back to a time of a lifetime that I shared with my mother, for instance. And you may or may not go there. The soul will take you where you need to go.
And what about future lives? Then has any clients ever gone to a future life that's affecting their life now?
Some do. I prefer not to take them through on purpose, because I believe that the future changes instantly with every thought that we have. So I don't believe in doing that. It's only my soapbox. Occasionally someone will go into the future, maybe twice in all the years I've done this. But when people ask, I say no.
Right. So I mean, this is this is such a healing work that you're doing, and to think you're teaching it as well. You've been teaching it as well. Did you ever think you'd be doing this, the teaching work?
Well, it's glorious. It's absolutely glorious to see people pass it on and understand that they're carrying the torch. You're bringing light, you're bringing understanding and enlightenment, literally, to other people. And once they've learned it and they've got their certification from it, they've also got their code of ethics, which I sign and they sign. They put up on the wall of their clinic, because I'm very strong around the ethics around this work. They're very proud. And we now have many, many teachers in Canada and parts of the States that have come in. I have teachers in Israel, teachers now in Ireland, teachers all over. Yeah.
And this is the new paradigm right now. All this is, I mean, it wasn't, go back 30 years, there wasn't, yeah. So what's this doing to consciousness? It's got to be expanding it, hasn't it? And there's got to be an acceleration of a remembrance of who we are. There must be a reason for this as well, while this expansion is happening now.
Yes. I think it's just raising the vibration. There's a however to that. Unfortunately, anytime you get groups of people together, you will always get some people who become political and who want to become gurus. Right? I abhor that. One of the reasons that I love Deepak Chopra so much is that he refuses to allow himself to be called a guru. He doesn't want to be a guru. Don't make me a guru. Just, if you like my teachings, great. If you don't, great. Don't make me a guru. But there are plenty of people.
Hang on, but there's plenty of big selling authors. I'm not going to name any who wear that coat of a guru. And I think that probably comes from a past lives where maybe in the Christian churches they were of high power.
Maybe that's just the first time that they've been noticed and they take it personally. They don't understand what it's really about. They don't understand that the whole process is the giving of it, not the gathering. And
that's one thing my challenge always taught me is no guru. Not about that. It's about giving people their power back.
No, it's not
giving people their power back. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And that's the hard lesson I've had to learn recently. That is. And it's so true. Yeah. It's a lovely egotistic trip to want to be a guru, right? But no, absolutely not. But it's true that it's a side effect of all this. But what you're doing, the work that you do, is there is no guru in one sense. They are their own guru.
There is nothing.
Yes.
That's right. And I make that very clear. And I say to them all the time, understand this is my point of view. I'm one teacher. There are many teachers out there. Take all you can from all of the teachers. This is my point of view. This is how I see the way things are. I'm not right. I'm not wrong. It just is.
Yeah.
Go.
Absolutely.
Right,
and now, do you do sessions over Skype?
Yes, I do a lot of sessions over Skype. I do coaching and counseling. I don't do past life or interlife because Skype can go down. And what I wouldn't want to do is to have someone on a battlefield and have Skype go down. I certainly do a lot of regression work in this life. So I do a lot of help. I've got people in LA, in London, in New York, in Tel Aviv, in Dublin. I don't have any more, but absolutely people all over. Yeah.
Australia, yeah. Well, do you know, Australia's actually
yeah.
a really, there's a lot going on over there. Much more than I thought. Much more.
Yes, there is.
Some really interesting stuff. I've got to say that. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah. Where are most of your listeners?
I think the biggest portion of them right now is in America, which says a lot about the karma.
Okay. Cool.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
State-wise. But okay. So look, we've got your websites coming up on the screen. But if this is going to be a podcast as well for the audio side, what is your website?
It's your website. Yeah, GeorginaCannon.com, and they can email me at any time with any question. I always get back to emails. It's part of what we do. I have a very good assistant. Her name's Ellie, and she makes sure that I get back to people if they have complicated questions. Happy to hear, happy to. Sometimes I put out an all points bulletin if I'm writing another book, which I will be when it's Regression with Benefits, about stories, and people want to include it in the book. If they want to belong and get my newsletter, please let us know. That comes out monthly. It's always light and fun and cartoons and interesting different links that we put on. I want people to smile, in life and have fun. So as well as being informative,
having
it's also
fun is important, and I always stress that. And I don't do enough of it sometimes because it's just 10,000 things to do or more. Sometimes it feels like, but you need to have fun.
Yeah.
What would you say then is the most important message of your work?
You are so much more than you seem. And my goal and my role is to help you find that magnificence in you. Everyone is so much more than they seem. Yeah. Remember that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that message with us. And I just want to say, Georgina Cannon, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a complete pleasure.
You're very, very welcome. And I look forward to hearing this and seeing it whenever it's ready.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.